Hello and welcome to Studentisch, your podcast about all things university, career, and life in Germany. And I'm your host, Jenny. So let's get into this, Studentisch.
Today, we're speaking with Dini. Dini, you are the city chapter president of Dagesweiden. We're super happy to have you with us. So Dini, introduce yourself to us. Who are you?
Thank you, Jenny. So, hi, my name is Dini, like you mentioned. I am originally from Indonesia, but now I'm living in Weiden. It's a really small city in Bavaria, around like 1 hour from Nuremberg. But I actually arrived for the first time in Germany in 2015 in Aachen. And yeah, and now I'm studying international business at OTH Weiden. I'm in my final semester and I'm writing my bachelor thesis right now. So wish me many good lucks.
Oh yeah, definitely good luck. I know the struggle too well, unfortunately. So, Dini, we're talking today about something that most people don't like talking about, which is dropping out of college. Obviously, we both are in our last semester, so we finally got the curve eventually, but we're gonna focus today on the not so juicy part of dropping out. So before we get into all of that, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from Indonesia to Germany, and starting your first degree, which you eventually dropped out of?
Uh-huh. So at the beginning, like if even when I was still in middle school, I already knew at that time that I wanted to study abroad.
Mhm.
So when I was in high school and then I came home visiting my parents, because at the time I went to school in different city from my parents. So when it was a holiday, I came back home and then we had this discussion. Okay, what did I want? What do I want to study, etc. And I told my parents, okay, I want to study abroad. And then my dad told me, okay, if you want to study abroad, maybe we can choose Germany because it is relatively cheap. We just need to pay the tuition fee, etc. So once you're back to the city you go to school in, just find a German language course. You just need to learn. You just need to learn the language. I mean, but I mean,
Only.
only need to learn the language. But actually, maybe they said that because they knew that I really like learning languages.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I got back to the city, the city where my school was, and I found it. I found the German language course, and then I went there. I asked questions, etc., etc., and then they asked me, so do you want to study in Germany? And then I said, yeah. And then they said, we actually bring students from Indonesia to Germany. So they apparently
Oh.
are an agency to do that. And then I talked with my parents, and then my dad came to that city and then had the talk with this agency. And then he asked me, "Are you sure about this? Like, do you want to go to Germany like now after your high school?" We had an agreement. If I got accepted, so like every student in Indonesia like applied like normally in Germany to the university, and if they got accepted through invitation, like they didn't have to write the written exam to get in.
Mm.
I just like applied to that. So we had this agreement. If I got accepted through this way, I would stay. But if not, I would go to Germany. And once the
Oh.
result come out, it's like I get rejected. Everyone was so sad. I was so happy. So yeah, and then I went to Aachen
Mhm.
and continued my language course. And then I attended Student College in Kaiserslautern, the pre-college course for 1 semester. And then I got back to Aachen. I applied for BWL, the normal business administration
Mhm.
at Aachen. Yeah, the funny thing is actually I only realized once I got accepted and then studying there, I realized that BWL at FH Aachen was actually in the top three for BWL of FH around for the whole
Oh my
Germany. And I
God.
was like, did I make the right decision? Because I chose that was only because I already knew the city, I already knew the people. So it's like, I guess, yeah, let's just do this. So yeah, and then I was there.
Oh wow, that is a crazy coincidence to realize, oh, I just got into one of the best schools for this particular
Like,
major.
yeah, and then questioning everything. It's like, let's just do it.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, since you started questioning whether this was the right fit, basically from the get-go, since you were probably intimidated, I'm assuming,
Mm.
when did you realize that, okay, this degree really isn't it for you, it doesn't work, or that dropping out really was becoming a realistic possibility for you?
So it was actually already difficult from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was like, let's do this. And this is the normal thing. Everyone is struggling, etc. But then I like finally realized, oh, I don't really think this is for me. I think it was in my third semester
Mm-hmm.
because like you're expected to like take or pass 6 exam in one semester, but it was to me it's like only like three,
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, even though like you take more. And I was like, this is, I don't think this is for me, especially like people said, usually you started figuring out everything in your third semester, but it wasn't the case for me. Well, it was for several subjects, but not for several others,
Mm-hmm.
especially business law. And I guess it was like organizational behavior.
Mm.
I mean, understanding the language itself was one thing, and understanding law language was a whole nother
Oh
level.
yeah.
I was like, I'm like, oh, I mean, I don't even understand law language Indonesian, forget about in Germany. And then the lecturer was a judge from a court, like a state court from North Rhine-Westphalia, and he spoke really fast.
Oh
And
no.
actually, his failing rate of his class was pretty high, like really
Oh,
high.
that
So
is
I was like,
never
I
a
don't
good
think this is
sign.
for me. Yeah, I don't think this is for me. But I told my parents, and then they just said, you made the decision. All the decision was yours. Take responsibility. It's like, okay, but then I'm already failing this class twice. I was like, I kind of realized that that wasn't for me. But at the end, it was just like I was just forced to drop out because I failed the class 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had both cases. Like I dropped out of college twice.
Mhm. So we are
Yeah, and in the
different.
first case, I studied biology and it was too hard for me. I didn't understand anything. And I had the same issue of failing certain classes multiple times, and then you would just get exmatriculated and they kick you out of university, basically. And in the second instance, it was different because I started it and also like I started my degree in like teaching. And towards the beginning, I immediately was like, I don't. It was similar to to your experience where you were unsure whether it was a good fit. And then I just dropped out because it just I didn't care for it. It didn't inspire me. It didn't get me motivated. And also there were some like health related things that I just took priority. So yeah, I just dropped out too. I checked out some content on YouTube to prepare for our little podcast episode. And like most of the videos, or like if not the video itself, then the thumbnails were really apologetic and like filled with embarrassment. Like they said, "Oh, sorry to my parents, sorry, mom and dad," like with really ashamed facial expressions, like looking down on the camera. Um, and it really kind of had this air of shame and that it's a bad thing to drop out, which kind of reinforced what I was feeling about it. How was that for you? Did you have the same anxiety around it? Were you ashamed? Were you embarrassed about it? Or were you just like, oh, it happens so often, I don't care?
Well, I yeah, I was like ashamed. The sense of like failures was there. Like I was so scared and like mad at myself. Like, really? Like how? Like my only job was to study because my parents pay for everything. They're like what? But then the other part of me also asked, I've done my best, like my very best. Could I have done better? Like, really? Like those fights in my mind. But actually, it wasn't as bad as when I was going to write my exam for the last time. Like, that was already the third time for these
Mhm.
two, for those two subjects. And coming to that exam place, like I was dreading, I was shaking, like I had nausea, like it was so scary. but once I accepted the letter that I have to extract man what that I had to drop out.
Yeah. It's
That
such a
I had to
complicated word. Like, why?
yes, that I had to drop out. Um, it was kind of like there was something, a sense of relief, like okay, yeah, so this is the way. Even though after that I still have the letter, so every time I see it,
Oh
like
no.
oh, kind of like yeah. But if at that time when everyone asks, I just like I just cover it. But now just like when people ask, I just yeah. Well, the proof is I'm here.
So in my social science mind, I went online and I looked out the rates and statistics of how many people actually drop out of college. And there's an institute, and attention now, here comes German. It's called the Deutsche Zentrum für Hochschul- und Wissenschaftsforschung. And they published a report about dropout rates in May of 2022. And for German BA students, about 20 to 51% drop out, kind of depending on what the major is, with STEM majors, so science, technology, engineering, and math, majors having the highest rates of dropouts. So they usually were between 49 and 51%, which is a lot. That's like every second student is dropping out of these
Yeah,
classes. And for international bachelor students, the quote is basically the same throughout the majors, and it tends to be between 41 and 49%. So also every second student drops out. So it's really like this super common thing for people to just be like, okay, I thought I was gonna be ready for this, and I realized I wasn't, or it's not what, you know, I thought I'm interested, but I'm really not. Um, so yeah, the expectation or reality of like every other student is dropping out, but we're still all kind of ashamed about it, and we're not talking about it enough. So really, there's this huge mismatch. But
about the numbers you mentioned,
mhm,
it got reflected very like well, like between me and my friends around me here,
mhm,
we drop like lots of us drop out, either Indonesian or my German students
yeah,
here, my German friends. I okay, this is their second studies, etc. So it's like, so that's actually that common.
it really is. I remember when I started my biology degree, and like in one of the first like lectures of the entire semester was first semester, like one of the first lectures, one of our professors was like, okay, so look to your left and now look to your right, and I can guarantee you by the third semester, only one of you three will still be here. And we were like, for one, unprofessional as hell. And so,
Yeah.
like, why would you say that? You're supposed to motivate students, like, but yeah, it's just really that common for people to drop out. Because I mean, so many people go to like high school, finish whatever they're doing there, then immediately go to university, and it's such a huge life decision. And oftentimes you just don't know what you get yourself into.
Mhm.
Um, and when you have different school systems, or like switch from, I don't know, in your case, Indonesian school system to German school system, there may be discrepancies in how certain things are taught or what materials were taught about it in the past. So, of course, it's difficult. University is difficult. It's kind of supposed to be difficult. So
Yes.
it's okay to be like, okay, this wasn't for me, and I'll just try again some other time. Um,
Did you feel the shame too or scared?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the first time it wasn't as bad because I was like, okay, yeah, this was just too hard. And there were so many circumstances surrounding it that just made it even worse. Back then, when I dropped out, I was like, okay, this is not a big deal, you know, circumstances. But then the second time, I was like, man, maybe I'm really just too stupid for university. Because like I'm also like like a first generation student, meaning neither one of my parents has an academic degree. So I was just like, maybe I'm just not smart enough. Maybe there's just something missing. Um, so I definitely felt a lot of shame around it. Because it's like, oh my God, I didn't fail once, I failed twice. That's not good. You like put pressure on yourself in regard to that, or was it also like family and friends or like fellow students maybe even making you feel that shame? Like, was it your own or was it put on you by other people?
I think mostly it was from myself.
Hmm.
Like I was so mad at myself that like I put pressure to myself. So it was everything it was in my mind. I'm really grateful that my parents supported me so well. Like I was so stressed, I was crying, blah blah, and then they just said, like, why would you stress out right now anyway? Like it's already happened. You have to face it. And then, so just face it. Do what you need to do right now. So I was like, yeah, but still, yeah. But they were so nice. Like they just like okay, they supported me so well. My friends who are in Germany, they of course understand it. They either experience it or like, yeah, they just like, okay, yeah, it
Yeah.
happens. Don't worry about it. But it was another story from my friends in Indonesia. I mean, of course, even changing subjects, changing your majors in Indonesia is really not common.
Oh.
Not passing a subject is like, hey, how can you not pass? Like heard so many stories about they struggling in Indonesia, but they just stay in that major until they finish. Because I guess
Mhm.
in Indonesia, it doesn't matter what you study, you can work in another field. So they just stay. Yeah, it's totally different in Germany, right? I for example, there was a friend of mine. She was experiencing something not so good in her career, and then
Mhm.
she was posting about understanding one another, etc., etc. So out of curiosity, I think at that time I was already like accepting my situation. Out of curiosity, I told her about my situation, and then
Mhm.
with the hope that she would understand my position too, because she was experienced this thing.
Mhm.
And then she uh, she kind of just laughed at me like,
Oh
how
my
come,
God.
like that's so silly, how like just she kept asking that. I was like, I it was hurtful,
Oh
but
yeah, of
I was
course.
kind of more disappointed, like you ask people to understand you yet you do this too.
Mhm.
Kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, so my curiosity was answered. And another experience that I remember very well was an extended family member. It's like we are in the same age. He also studied business, but he was almost done with it. And he was asking me about having his own business, asking my opinion, and then yeah, some knowledges about business, etc. And then he asked me about my studies, and
Mhm.
I told him as what it is. And then I was like, hey, how come? Again, that question, how come? Like they couldn't understand it. I was like, and then I explained it. I got annoyed and I asked him, well, you're still also figuring out your life even after like you're almost done with your studies. We're kind of the same, you know? And he said,
Yeah.
well, at least I fulfilled my responsibilities to my parents. I was like, oh my
Oh
God.
wow. What a low blow.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
my.
like, but you're asking a failed student about business? Like, okay. I was like, okay, now I know where to stand. So yeah, those things. But now I just like, yeah, I just like, you don't know my situation here. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how many times I explain to you. You don't know until you experience it. So I just like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you made a really good point when it comes to people just figuring out their way for themselves. College is just one aspect of all of that. But in like, especially your 20s or yeah, 20s generally, it's just so much figuring out what you want, what your values are, where you want to be in life, and what steps to take to get there. So, of course, you're gonna fail at certain things, and that's totally fine and normal. So,
Yeah,
for some people to be so negative about it, it's like you
yeah.
might have failed at college, but they need some other figuring out.
Mm-hmm.
So. But it's really bad that people reacted so negatively. That's very sorry to hear that. That's not cool. I'm trying to rack my brain whether I had any reactions like that, but I think people like when it only spoke to like close friends of mine about it, and I think they saw how stressed out about it I was, that they didn't
Mm.
feel any need to like put even
Add
more
to it.
salt into that wound. My mom is like a very understanding person. So she's definitely more so the kind, figure it out at your own pace, at your own time, whatever you need, I'm here. So I'm like, okay,
Right, right. Your own pace. That's
cool.
right.
Yeah. 'Cause I feel like so many people are so set on I have to have everything figured out by the time I'm like 25, and then I'll have my bachelor's and my master's, and I'm like working by the time I'm 30. And it's like, just
Mhm.
take your time, figure things out, because then they'll be like 35 stuck in a career they hate and wish they had done things differently. Like, just take your time. If it's not, if it doesn't feel right, just stop doing it.
Right. Oh, I love that.
So, um, you said your friends reacted negatively. Your family was okay. You put pressure on yourself.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel, or do you sometimes worry about how it's gonna like look on your resume that you dropped out? Because that's like one of my biggest concerns in the entire regard, that I have 2 unfinished degrees in my like CV every single time I send it out. And
At first, yes,
Mhm.
but now, like after going through several interviews, job application, blah, 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 I realized that they actually don't really care about it.
Mm,
Maybe they will ask, but just like, especially if the recruiters from Germany, they're Germans, I believe they would understand it so well, especially if they also experience it. Yeah. So I don't think they actually really care about it. It's only if when they ask about it, I just make sure that I add, I've learned so much from that experience and I'm doing so much better now in my current studies and I can prove it with my grades. So I think, yeah, as long as we can, prove that we improve, it's okay.
yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think any employer ever brought it up in an interview, actually. Like,
See?
now that you mention it, I'm like, no, I don't think anybody ever asked. And like, I would have explained it, but nobody even cared to look at it. Huh.
Right. No, let's
Crazy.
worry.
It's crazy how the mind works, because it's like, in my mind, it's always like, oh, they're gonna be see this and like, oh no, we can't hire her. And then it's like, oh yeah, they never even ask about it. Oh, that kind of makes sense. It's probably not that important.
Yeah, like, yeah, they're learning. Like you said, they're still in their 20s, they're figuring things out.
Exactly. I think that should be allowed to do. Like,
Mm,
figuring yourself out shouldn't be like contrary to having a career, because if it was, that's not a very humane way to look at economy. But
mm,
that's just my opinion.
it's fine.
Anyway, so after you dropped out, you're filled with anxiety and shame, and your family and friends are some supportive, some aren't. What was like your thought process after that? Were you thinking about, okay, now I have to go back to Indonesia, now I have to start working? Um, what was your process to what now?
Mm,
Because I mean, obviously that's the question that's gonna come up. So I dropped out. What now?
yeah. So, about working, that's absolutely out of question if I start working in Germany because I'm here with student visa,
Hmm.
so I cannot work. And then for another option, going back to Indonesia, I talk about it with my parents. They says like, don't even think about that. We still have this possibility for you to finish it in Germany. So just finish it. Like, because in Indonesia we have this rule that you can only apply to state university until
Mm-hmm.
certain age. I think it was 2 years after, or 2 or 3 years after you finish high school.
Oh wow.
So yes, we have that rule. So I thought it was already like if I wanted to go back to Indonesia, I have to like apply to a private university.
Mm,
So yeah, let's just finish it in Germany.
mm.
But it actually, I don't know if you're aware about this rule for international students, or at least from Indonesia, or outside of EU, we can only change a university once and
Oh,
change our major twice.
oh.
And we are given time of totally 10 years from the first time we arrived in Germany until we finish our master.
Oh,
So we have that
talk
rule.
about being pressured.
Yeah, we have that rule. So I already changed my major once and changed university once. So if I wanted to change again, I only have like I can only change my major, but in the
Mhm.
same university. But I don't think I would do that.
Would that rule also apply if you wanted to study something that wasn't like offered at that university?
Mm, and also I just like I added if I drop out because I failed this exam, like I did, I couldn't apply to another major in the same university. So I have to get out anyway. So
Oh,
yeah, so I have to get out anyway.
oh,
So
those
if
are some
I
strict
wanted to
rules.
study, so yeah, if I wanted to study something else, but it is not in my university, well, tough luck. I cannot.
Oh wow, that's harsh. Like I know like for example, since I failed my one of the biology exams 3 times, I'm not allowed to study anything in Germany anymore that has that like class in it. Like I'm not allowed to study biology again, regardless of
Mm.
what university, but to say like, oh, you failed this major, so you can't enroll in anything else anymore at our university, that's harsh.
Yeah,
Like let
the
them
rule that
study
you just
something else.
yes, the rule that just you mentioned, it also applies to us. So
Yeah, that is crazy. So basically, your only option was, or the only option that you felt was something you cared for was going back to college again.
going back to college again and uh, not studying in German because it's just like, let's start in English.
Yeah, that is understandable.
Yeah, my current studies it's all of in English.
Yeah, was like starting your the bachelor year in now, was it an intimidating decision? Like, did you start with this, oh my God, I'm gonna fail at this again? Or like with the mindset of that, or was it like, okay, take a deep breath, I can do this? Like, how did you go about it?
I guess it was just like because I to start in summer semester had less options. So I just like, okay, let's see which courses are open this summer semester, etc. So I got here and so like, okay, let's just like face this. I know I can do it. I don't have any other excuses. It's all in English now, and just like yeah, gas given.
That's good.
But
So
yeah.
now your experience is different. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
obviously is since you're in your last semester.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's so much better now. I'm much happier. I can make one of the most important thing that I can make friends.
Mm,
Beforehand, it was like, I mean, making friends, especially with German, it's not easy, right? Do
I
you agree?
know, I know.
It's not
It
easy.
can
I
be
mean,
a
I
little
can
difficult.
yeah. I mean, I can understand it though because I'm kind of like that type of person too.
Mhm.
So I'm shy, and then approaching a German who is also like need long steps to be approached, it's also not easy. So once I made that friends, when I was in the previous degree in previous major, okay, I think we can get along. We go to many classes together,
Mm.
and then the next semester they were disappeared. I was like, we cannot start over. Like, okay, what should I do?
Yeah.
But now here because the majority of the students are international students and we speak in English, so it's just like okay, let's everyone wants to make friends, so it's like then and they stay longer here, so it's just like yeah, I know you so, that thing and then I can understand the lectures much better
Mm.
with my grades. They are, oh my goodness, they were so, if I cannot even compare it with my previous degree, like the effort that I put in the previous degree, was so much, but the result was like, okay, like
Like it didn't match.
3.7. I'm proud of myself. But now it's like, ooh, like okay, I can get this grade. So if I even got scholarships,
Ooh.
uh, so yeah, it was like amazing. And then I can get new opportunities like the scholarships, and I can like join Degis. Like I'm really proud that
Yeah.
I can join Degis.
So basically, dropping out was a really good thing.
Yes.
Like it sounds bad, but I mean, like it freed up time. You didn't have to work as hard anymore for unsatisfactory results.
Mm-hmm.
You have more friends now. You had more free time to join organizations that you were like really passionate about. So overall, it sounds like a really good experience for you.
It is. It is. I'm so glad. Like, if I didn't like fail those subjects 3 times, I must have thought that I can still do this. But it would take me longer to finish my studies. I believe that I would not even in the last semester if I continued in that study at this moment.
Mm.
And my grades, oh my goodness. So, yeah. So yeah, I'm
I
just
know.
so happy. Like I was kind of forced to get out of there.
That is so awesome. For me, it's definitely the same. Like after I dropped out the second time, I took some time away from university
Mhm.
because I didn't want to drop out a third or fourth time. So I took 2 years where I just worked and like focused on other things, trying to figure out what I care for, basically. And then I started social science, and like you, I'm in my last semester now, and it was good both times that I dropped out. So I'm really glad that things happened the way they happened.
Mhm.
But yeah, I hope that that gives a bit of a better impression about what dropping out of college is like.
Mhm.
It's not all shameful and awful and worth an apology. It's also an
Yes.
expression of finding yourself and learning and growing and finding your own path, which is so, so important.
To add to, I was told, okay, for those who have experienced it and then or in the middle of considering to drop out and change their major, that's totally fine if you're afraid like what about the times that I've spent, it will go wasted. Like
Mm,
no, you're not, you've learned so much even from that. Like just like if you think you can do so much better in some other place, just do it. And like yeah, and
that's
if
such a good point. Such a good point.
and I was told like, but you want to study in English? What about those years you spent learning German and visiting student colleagues? And I will still, speak German. I even now actually feel more comfortable speaking German because I don't feel like judged. I mean, like people understand her studies are all in English, so it's okay if she has like grammatic wrong, blah blah blah. Well, I feel more comfortable now speaking German. And people the saying that you have to go outside of your comfort zone to grow. But
Yeah,
in my opinion, sometimes you really need to be on your comfort zone to grow, just like a, a flower needs this right condition to blossom. Oh my
getting all poetic. I like
God.
it.
And now we are blossoming, so
Yeah, I hope so. I just hope it stays that way.
ah.
Yeah, my plant care is awful, so
No,
I hope
no,
my
no.
self-care skills are better than that.
Not there. If not, then we'll have another podcast maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have a podcast episode about how dropping out was not a good experience after all.
No.
No,
When you want to people see it, it's something normal. We have to. I think we have to start seeing it as a normal thing ourselves.
yeah,
If we
exactly.
still covering it up, we ask people to. It's normal. It's normal. You have to see it normal. You have to understand. But we're still ashamed of ourselves. Then
Yeah,
it's yeah. People will not believe it. So.
yeah, that's for sure. But as the statistics show, as our experience shows, it's normal.
It's
Absolutely.
normal. It happens.
Exact. We're not unfailable.
Mm-hmm.
You you for being with us. It was super insightful. You're a very nice person.
Hopefully it helps many people.
Yeah, I hope so too. That's the goal at the end of the day. And I think many people should feel less ashamed of dropping out of school.
Yes, if you feel alone, you're not. We're here.
Oh, definitely not. We have at least 3 dropouts in this room today. We're just racking them up.
Mhm.
Anyways, that's it. Thank you for tuning in.